Champions League semi-finals continue this weekend. In this video, we preview the highly anticipated clashes as Chelsea host Barcelona and Arsenal travel to Lyon. We start with Chelsea, discussing whether they have any chance of overturning the 4-1 loss in the first leg and what they have to do to improve against a tough Barcelona team. Then we move on to Arsenal, who kept their tie with Lyon much closer, and whether they can get anything away at Lyon, who haven't lost a home match in over 2 years. This is our Champions League semi-finals preview. Alright, let's get into this Champions League semi-final second leg time, and today we're going to be discussing both the games coming up this Sunday as we see who will be in the final of this year's Women's Champions League. And let's start then with the early kick-off on the Sunday, Harry, which is of course Barcelona versus Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. We saw the reverse fixture last weekend, Barcelona 4, Chelsea 1. What chance is there for Chelsea to turn this tie around?
There's a very slim chance, but I think there is still a chance. It's football. At the end of the day, it's a Champions League semi-final. Anything can happen. And Chelsea, they managed to score 3 goals in 45 minutes against Man City to turn that tie around. Yes, it is a complete different kettle of fish in Barcelona, but football's football. Anything can happen. But if we're being realistic, Barcelona are in a great position to reach the final once again. But Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, they will give it everything they've got, and I think it's been a really positive message throughout the week from Bonpastor, from the players, of that mindset that they still believe. Chelsea believe they can turn this tie around. Whether I think they'll make a very, very good go of it. Of course they will, but there's a lot of work to do in only 90 minutes. It's good. It's a really tough ask.
Yeah, I think the messaging this week's been really important, but we need to see that backed up on the pitch. I think what we saw in that first game was similar to what we saw with Wolfsburg. They just completely capitulated. I don't know why teams do it against Barcelona. I mean, obviously Barcelona are an incredible side. That's not up for debate, but it just gets to 70 minutes and teams fall apart in these games. For Chelsea, it was even later, 80 minutes. They were in the game until the 80th minute, and then suddenly they're 4-1 down by the end of it, and it looks very difficult to turn the tie around. So it's a shame, but if they show up in this game, if they give 100%, if they catch Barcelona on a bad day, there's every chance Chelsea can turn this tie around. It's going to be tough. It's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of work, and it's going to have to require the stars to align in a sense. But I think if Bonpastor gets her team selection right, if the players are up for it on the day, as you say, anything can happen in football. So I still think Chelsea can turn this tie around, but it's going to be a tough ask. And we analysed yesterday the reverse fixture, the Barcelona-Chelsea game, looking at where those gaps were for Chelsea. With that in mind, do you expect to see a slightly different run-up in this game, or do you think it'll be broadly the same?
I think there will be changes, but mostly based on the fact that the likes of Gary Wright and Mike Armano look to be ready and fit to start, and I think they're the kind of players that can completely change a Champions League tie. I think I'd expect to see a change in the back line. There may be one forced if Natalie Bjorn isn't fully fit to play. I think that Chelsea will look to play. It's going to be weird because I think Chelsea have got to look to play a little bit safer, but I think that will help in the end because as much as they need at least 3 goals, they cannot afford to concede. And I think that Chelsea need to get that right balance. Bonpastor needs to get that balance in the team selection. But I do think there will be changes to the 11 because the 11 that went out there in the first leg didn't get the job done. And I don't think that Bonpastor can but play that same 11 and expect to get a different result because it just won't happen. It wasn't good enough from those 11 players on the pitch last Sunday. So this Sunday, they've got to get it right. And I think that there definitely will be a few changes in there at least.
Yeah, I think a lot of people looking at the Chelsea-Man City game as a reference for this, saying, well, Chelsea got 3 goals in that game to turn it around. Why can't they do it here? They went super attacking in that first half and they dominated Manchester City. And I understand the logic there because City and Barcelona do play in very similar ways. I think the difference is Man City in that game at Stamford Bridge played super defensively.
Yeah.
Really defensive football, and they just look to try and consolidate their lead in the aggregate tie. Barcelona won't look to do that because Barcelona never look to do that. The day Barcelona play defensively, it will be a travesty for the sport of football. But I think there is still an opportunity if Chelsea can get, as you said, get that balance right between attack and defence. If they can put pressure on that Barcelona backline, I don't think it's infallible. I think you can find a route to goal. We saw Chelsea do that. They brought Kat Macario on and there was a bit more of a attacking presence, I think, for Chelsea. So I still think there's an opportunity here. I will always think that though, unless the tie's 8-0. Even then, gotta believe. But yeah, I think it is going to be a really tough ask to see what Chelsea can do. In terms of lineup, yeah, it's probably going to be a very similar team, unfortunately, which I think is a difficult one to toss up because realistically, Bronze and Walsh really should be dropped after their performances. But I don't think you trust Ashley Lawrence in a game like this. Maybe you do. Who knows? I mean, she played the fixture this time last year, so who knows? And as much as it should be a Nuskin Cup at Pivot, I reckon Walsh will probably start again because they're the games that Walsh and Bronze were signed for. But ultimately, I'm not sure either of them are at the level to play those games anymore. That's the sad reality of it. In terms of front line, I think Wright will be back. I think given the fact Hamano didn't start, only came off the bench, I don't think we'll see her start in this game, but she could have an impact off of the bench. In that 10 role, it's a big toss-up. Does Macario start in there after her impact off the bench? Potentially so. Wouldn't be surprised to see Vika Kaptein or Sioka Nuskin in there, though, if they are looking to keep that balance of midfield. Then it'll be either Carnreed or Beaver Jones, I reckon, on the right-hand side. Ramirez leading the line. Is there a toss-up through the middle, though? Ramirez or Beaver Jones?
I think you have to go Ramirez in this kind of game. I just think that I don't think she got involved on last weekend in the first leg, but I just think that presence, the ability she has, I really like Beaver Jones. I think she's a very good footballer, but I think the physicality up against Lyon and Paredes is better than that ball in behind. We saw that ball in behind is quite hard to execute against Barcelona because you have to be, especially when Chelsea were playing it very straight and it would just run through to Catalina Cole. But if Chelsea can use the channels, and potentially so, but I think that you've got to get Ramirez up there because she can also do a very good job over the top. So I think that physicality mixed with the runs, it can massively help Chelsea. They've got to use Ramirez more than they did in that first leg. Get her involved, get her to hold the ball up because not only will she take pressure off you, but she will get you that 10-15 yards up the pitch. She can bully those centre-halves off the ball, and I just don't think that she really had a part to play in the first leg.
No, I think a lot of Ramirez's shortcomings in that first leg came because of other players. I think when she held up the ball, it was sort of a lost cause, and we saw her at times running around the pitch trying to hold on to the ball because she just didn't have anyone to play off of. And in that regard, maybe someone like Macario would have been a better fit in that midfield as someone that could link up with Ramirez in those areas. And I think players like Wright will be beneficial for Ramirez. And the other thing was those balls in behind just weren't good enough. When we saw the ball going behind, it was often over here or played at the wrong time. And I don't think that therefore they were able to find Ramirez in behind, which was a problem. That could have caused Barcelona trouble if they play that ball in behind and it's a successful ball. So, yeah, I think that Chelsea didn't make the most of Maya Ramirez in that game, which was a shame because I think she can be incredibly dangerous and incredibly difficult to deal with for that Barcelona backline. So, yeah, I think a very good player. So, yeah, going to be an interesting game. We've only ever seen Chelsea beat Barcelona once in any game of football, which is, of course, the first leg last year. But they have at least proven it can be done. And I think if Stamford Bridge gets behind Chelsea on Sunday, I think Chelsea will win the game. It's just a matter of whether they can get enough goals.
Yeah, I think Barcelona though they'll come. They've got a lot of quality. I think it'll be interesting to see who plays for the away side. I think Pina came off the bench and was absolutely brilliant. Is a Champions League top goal scorer, but I still think there's probably a good chance that she won't start. But I think that she definitely warrants one. She's absolutely brilliant this season. Came on and completely turned this tie around by scoring those 2 goals in the first leg. So credit to her. I think she's now double digit at 9 or 10 goals now in the Champions League, which is absolutely ridiculous. So really strong campaign from Pina. But overall, I think that Barcelona, they'll still play aggressively. They'll still take the game to Chelsea, and that's the big risk because if Barcelona get 1 goal, suddenly I think it's tie over because I don't see Chelsea coming back from 5-1 down. That is that's 1 goal too many. But I think they'll be a little bit safer. They'll still play aggressively, but we did see that element of control they opted for in that first leg. So if they can get in control, they can get on the ball. If the likes of Putellas can dictate it the way that she did last weekend, it's going to be very, very difficult for Chelsea to fight back against that. And again, I think the quality in that front line, Barca, I don't think they really got too many players involved. I don't think that the likes of Paraluelo and Graham Hansen on those wings did incredibly in the first leg, but they're the kind of players, if they get them on the ball in the second leg, they can also make a difference. So it's one of those where Chelsea got to be very, very careful because Barcelona, they are the best side in the world for a reason. They're incredible when they come forward. They are very, very strong defensively. It is a mammoth task, and I think that Barcelona will know that if they come at Chelsea from the off, get 1 or 2 goals, suddenly this tie is over.
Yeah, you mentioned there Claudio Pino, obviously 9 goals in this competition, top scorer in the tournament. Eva Payor also up there for Barcelona with 6. Do you think Chelsea's lack of a focal point is a bit of a problem? The top scorer in the Champions League this season is shared between Kat Macario and Myra Ramirez. Is that a bit of a problem for Chelsea?
I see it in a sense of Chelsea have rotated a lot across the Champions League campaign. We've seen a lot of people share minutes, but and we've seen the same with Barcelona. The difference is it's the high volume of goals. Is that Chelsea didn't really, they didn't smash teams in the group. Say Celtic, the game at Stamford Bridge was a little bit more open, but the game away in Scotland was a pretty close one. There's been other games like that where Chelsea just haven't really put teams to the sword, and I think that's the difference we've seen. That's why the Barcelona players are so high up in the rankings, because they scored 10 goals over the course of 2 legs against Wolves, but 11 goals, something incredible like that.
Hammerby 9-0, Bolton 7-0.
That is why they've got so many players up there in the goal scoring charts, because they've put defences to the sword and scored such a high volume of goals. Which is saying we haven't seen from Chelsea, but they're going to need to do it in this game against one of the best defences in the world. So they're going to need people to turn up. Sondy Baltimore seems to love these running in from the left and smashing it across the face of goal into the far right corner.
Well, that's the benefit of having a right-footed player in that position, is you do end up with practically 2 left wingers. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the game pans out. Let's talk about the other one. Loose predictions. I mean, actually, we're not streaming it, so we can get some predictions in.
I think it'll be a close game. I'm going to say a draw, and it won't. But it'll see Barcelona through an aggregate.
I'm going to say 4-0 Chelsea.
Wow,
because they're going through.
Okay,
Gotta believe. I'll be believing until the game is physically over. It could be 5-0 Barcelona, but if it's the 90th minute, I'll still believe we could get a few goals. But yeah, so 4-0 Chelsea, they'll get through. Let's talk about the other side then. The game kicking off just after that one, Lyon versus Arsenal. A much more competitive fixture at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal did well to keep them close in that game. Can they do that again? And now how do they build on that performance to put them in a position to go on and potentially win the tie?
Yeah, it's one of those where it's a really, not a tough position to be in, but it's a weird position to be in, because Arsenal, they're still in the tie, but the problem is they are losing and they are travelling away to Lyon. That is a very, very difficult situation to be in, but they're only losing by 1, which is the positive note for it. So I do think that, as you say, they did a very, very good job in that first leg to keep them in the tie. Second leg now, it is about, I think the clinicality and the taking their chances for Arsenal is going to be the reason whether they go through to the final or not. Because in that first leg, they had the chances to win the game. It's as simple, they had opportunities to put the ball in the back of the net and to win the game, and they didn't take them. And when you don't take the chances against Lyon, they punish you. In this game, if Barcelona, get on top like they did in that first match, if they can get the chances they got in that first leg, they have to take them in this second leg. And if they do, they'll put themselves in a really, really good position, because they had some great opportunities and just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net until they got that penalty. But they're going to need to take their chances, because if they get a goal or two, suddenly it's game on. There's a lot of pressure on Lyon. We've seen how Bayern Munich, yes, they got torn apart overall, but they went away to Lyon in the second leg of the quarter-final and led the game 1-0 at half-time. So
they did shit 4 in the second half.
They did. So Arsenal don't want to look at that bit, but they want to look at the fact that it is possible to go away to Lyon, get a result, and turn this tie around. I think they've got that. Arsenal,
I think Arsenal will believe, but to look at that game and suggest that they can get a result away.
In the first half,
Lyon haven't lost a game at home in over 2 years. But records are there to be broken. I think Arsenal will believe they can turn up and really upset the apple cart here. They had more possession in the game at the Emirates. They had more big chances created, more shots on goal. I think they'll believe that they can get something from this game, but ultimately, team selection is going to be really important, and discipline in performance. I think if they're looking at this game and they want to try and defend successfully, I think playing potentially Catley at left back and bringing in Wubben Moy or someone like that would be a smart idea. Because I think that's where they got caught out.
Yeah,
was down that left hand side for Arsenal, down Lyon's right hand side. it was too easy in that space behind McCabe. And people talk about the attacking contribution that she offers, but we didn't see that
No.
in the game in the first leg. All we saw was the fact that she was always out of position. And a
Yeah.
lot of the fault for that first goal does lie on her. So I think there were problems there. I don't think Catley did a great job at left centre half, but she was left isolated up against Diani.
Yeah.
It's probably going to end one way, and it did end one way in that goal. That goal in the 17th minute. So yeah, I think it's obviously a really difficult ask for Arsenal. They've got to go away to Lyon. They've got to get a result against a side who are unbeaten this season. Again, they're out of the Coupe de France, but technically they haven't lost a game this season. That was on penalties. But yeah, and then in terms of higher up the pitch, I think that pivot didn't work whatsoever. I thought Caldente and Little both really struggled. I think it could be a very easy change to a Valti Cooley cross pivot. I think that could work quite nicely. I reckon they'll probably keep Little in there though, so more likely to be something like Valti and Little or Little and Cooney cross. So we'll see what happens there. Caldente will start somewhere though, whether that's in that pivot or in the 10 role or on the left flank. I think she'll probably do better on the left wing. Yeah. And then either Kelly or Ford on the right wing for me. I don't think it'll be Kelly because we haven't seen her back from injury yet, but they've got options there. I don't think Mead offered much in that first leg. And then Frida Arno is a really interesting one because I thought there were glimpses in the game where she was brilliant, but she did miss a lot of chances. So it's difficult to say what to do. I think if they do want to play Ford and Mead or Ford and Kelly, putting Caldente in the 10 makes sense. But I think Marnham's direct running and movement can be incredibly dangerous if she takes her chances.
Yeah, Arsenal have got to, the team selection, they've got to get it right where they're a little bit braver. They've got to put out 11 players that have that mentality to go and be bolder. Because in that first leg, for example, you had players on that, you mentioned the pivot there. I think Little was one. There's quite a few players who just played it too safe. Played every pass, went backwards or sideways. There was no... And I get they wanted to conserve and they're being very careful, but I think that Lyon were there for the taking in that first leg, and Arsenal were a little bit too safe. Now they're trailing. They've got to be bolder. They need players who are going to be positive. They need players who are going to move that ball from A to B rather than every time they get an opportunity just going backwards, because that's not going to achieve anything. Yeah. They have to give up I think for me in this game they love having the ball, and I get that, but I think they have to give up a little bit of control to in order to get better chances, because we will see it. We've seen Lyon don't like to have the ball. Yeah. So if you give up a little bit more control, you then put the onus on to Lyon to use the ball and to create chances, which is then a good opportunity for Arsenal to try and hit them and win the ball back.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I get what you're saying about giving up control. I think it's more taking that risk though, and naturally that gives up a little bit of control. I think it's about taking those risks, playing that ball that perhaps will result in a turnover, but having the confidence that your rest defence is strong enough to deal with it if that ball does break free. But they should be trying those balls in behind. They should be playing those more risky passes. At this stage of the competition, you have to. So, yeah, I think that's going to be really important for Arsenal. It looks like Van Domsel will be out again.
Yeah.
How do Arsenal protect Zinsberger? Because people complain that she's not good enough, and I do agree. I think there are mistakes, and I think as a backup goalkeeper, she's fine. If she needed to play a WSL game, I'd have faith that she'd come in and do an adequate job. But in a Champions League semi-final, it's a different matter. How do Arsenal protect Zinsberger?
It's a very difficult question, because against most opposition, you'd say limit the clear-cut chances, limit the opposition to pot shots, and then let Zinsberger deal with those shots from range and those shots from tight angles. The problem is when you're playing against Lyon, is that if you limit them to pot shots and tight angles, they will still find a way to put it on the target.
Well, and the problem is that she can't deal with the pot shots.
No.
Selma Batcher smashed one at her from about the 40-yard range, and she still spelt it.
Yeah.
She saw it coming a mile off. Just catch that. But yeah, I think they've got to be... It's a really difficult one, because you've just got to close down shots as quickly as possible. You've got to be a compact unit. You've got to get in the way of goal. I think they did it quite well in the first leg. They limited Lyon to 4 shots on target.
That's pretty
2 of them went in, and that's the problem. When 50% of the shots on target are going to go in, you've got to limit Lyon to none.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult, but I think Arsenal did really well in the first leg, and playing at a similar level could get them a result.
Yeah.
Very much could get them a result, but The onus really is on Lyon, because I don't think Lyon were at 100% in the Arsenal game.
No.
And if they don't meet that standard again, and Arsenal do build on last week, I think Arsenal can get a result there. But if Lyon play the way that we know they can, as well as we know they can, with Wendy Renard expected to be back in the side, it could be a very different equation. Yeah. So it really depends what version of Lyon shows up. But Arsenal have got to be ready to exploit whatever Lyon bring, and I think they can. I think Arsenal can get a result here.
Yeah, I think that, as you say, for Lyon it'll be interesting. We expect Renard to be back, so that'll be an instant change into the back line. Apart from that, the only change I really see potentially happening is we could see Van der Donk coming out for someone like a Marijan. But
I think Marijan gives you a bit more a bit better pressing when she's on the ball. I think she's a bit more confident, a bit more comfortable in this system. She's played a lot more this season under Joe Montemuro. So I think that change would make a lot of sense. It may help them just limit Arsenal coming forwards a bit more.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing is that I think Christine Endler just needs to calm down in this game, because she had a really mixed match in the first one, was make some brilliant saves and just started running around aimlessly, punching Williams in the face and passing the ball to Blackstenius, which she didn't
It's funny though, because she only conceded one less goal than Zinsberger, and she conceded a penalty, yet she still ended up on a 6.7 rating, while Zinsberger's on 5.7. It's incredible. But yeah, I think Arsenal have got to take their chances. It's the most simple thing. If they took their chance in the first leg, they'd be leading coming into this one. And yeah, they relied on a penalty really to get them through, but 4 big chances, 3 big chances missed. Simply put, that isn't good enough at this level of competition. Marnham was too many chances in that tie, but equally she was getting in the positions to take them, which other players perhaps weren't. So yeah, Arsenal got to take their chances, and then, well, who knows what could happen? Maybe Arsenal will be Champions League finalists.
Maybe.
That would sting Chelsea.
That would.
Unless Chelsea are also there. London Derby and Lisbon. Get me there. But yeah, should be a very good Sunday. Let's predict Arsenal-Lyon then. This one you will be live for. I won't be back from Stamford Bridge. So I'll give my prediction, but you can give us a loose prediction, Harry.
Do you know what? I'm going to sit on the fence and say it's going to extra time. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't call it. I genuinely...
1-0 Arsenal or 2-1 Arsenal or 3-2 Arsenal?
I think Arsenal will win in 90 minutes. Okay, yeah.
What a game.
I don't think it'll be that, but I think Arsenal will win it in 90 minutes, and then it will go to extra time, and que sera, whatever will be, will be.
I'm going to say 2-2 in normal time. So it'll be 4-3 on aggregate.
Okay.
I think it will be an early Lyon goal.
Yeah.
Arsenal fans don't believe anymore. Yeah. And then they'll come forwards. Marnham goal, Russo goal. And so it'll be 3-3. 90th minute. Header from Lindsay Heaps. Crushes the dreams of Arsenal fans everywhere. Lyon 2, Arsenal 2, 4-3 in aggregate.
Okay, I like it. That's drama. That's dramatic. That's what we want to see. From a neutral point of view, we just want to see a really good side.
Yeah, I just need... If Chelsea do lose on Sunday, I need to see Arsenal tears as well. If not, I will be depressed. So yeah, that should be a good game. Other than that, that is everything. Join Harry on Sunday for coverage of Lyon Arsenal. If you're going to the Chelsea-Barcelona game, whether you are a Chelsea or Barcelona fan, feel free to come and say hi. If you're a Barcelona fan, I might not be in the talking mood. If it's after the game, if it's before the game, might be more hospitable. But yes, I will be in the shed end. If anyone else is going along to the game, feel free to say hi. Other than that, yeah, as I say, Harry will be live on Sunday, and we'll be back on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever time next week to review all of the Champions League action and UWCL action over this weekend. So join us there. That, though, is everything from us today. If you haven't already, go and check out the videos from yesterday and the day before we reviewed the Champions League semi-final first legs. That is everything. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.